Joining us now to break down the court cases and what they mean is Kelsey Dallas, a national religion reporter for Deseret News. Kelsey, when we look at the most recent court case, the one involving the contraception one, it was a 7-2 decision. It's the latest in a string of religious liberty type of cases that we've seen over the past month. But I want to focus on this one. As far as lay people like me and maybe some of our viewers, what does this court case mean?
The ruling means that nearly all employers with religious or moral objections to birth control no longer have to provide it in their employer health plans. So this is a huge resolution that we've been waiting for a long time.
And when it comes to this case, too, it's of course being applauded by a lot of religious institutions, the same way that the last week's cases also did. Of course, those ones pertain to employment discrimination as well as scholarships to different private institutions, saying they couldn't be excluded. But when it comes to this contraception one, this is a big one for a lot of religious institutions because it's essentially religious freedom being put over governmental control to some degree. Am I right?
Yes, this is an incredibly controversial clash between those who are fighting for what they say are sort of women's right to access health care, this type of coverage for birth control, and then the religious freedom protections that are coming up against that. So it means quite a bit for the Supreme Court to say it's okay for religious freedom to win out in this case.
And Kelsey, it's interesting to me, too, because, of course, I remember during the Kavanaugh confirmation when a lot of people were saying that the court may be just a conservative type of firebrand type of court. Abortion rights may be in jeopardy. A lot of things may be in jeopardy because of Kavanaugh and, of course, Gorsuch on the court now, too, giving them the conservative majority. But these recent decisions, they're 7-2 decisions. I mean, it's not necessarily just 5-4 based along party lines. There does seem to be some consensus among these justices when it comes to these issues. So more broadly, what does this say about the leaning of the court?
I believe that we can rest assured after recent rulings that the Supreme Court overall is very friendly to the idea of religious freedom. They see America as this pluralistic country where faith groups deserve protection and have had it from the beginning. And so this is not just a conservative cause, it is a cause for all of us to care about.
Right. And of course, when it comes to the contraception case, too, a lot of liberals pointing out that it was 2 female liberal justices who wrote the dissenting opinion. So there may be a little bit of a discourse right there, a little bit that could be talked about when it comes to maybe some of the more male justices kind of giving their input in this decision. But that's what happens. That's what happens when a Supreme Court justice oversits on the bench.
This breakdown.
Exactly. I mean, they have to look at all it.
I should say that, interestingly, 2 of those liberal justices that had this concurring opinion, Kagan and Breyer, they did allude in sort of what was written that there are future challenges to come to the contraception mandate. So it's not as if they've said once and for all, let's support religious groups. It's just that here and now, let's go with religious freedom, and maybe that could change in the future.
And in fact, that was a type of argument I heard, too, when it came to maybe some of the more abortion restrictions type of cases. Of course, a lot of the conservatives siding with a lot of their liberal colleagues on that, saying that that this is more narrowly tailored. We're looking exactly what's in front of us, not necessarily big picture. And to a lot of liberals, they are a little bit nervous a little bit right now, especially acknowledging the fact that Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts just came out of the hospital. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, of course, has her own medical history as well. So there is a chance that there may be an opening, and maybe not by the election, but at least in the near future. It's something to keep in mind, as well as Clarence Thomas. He's talked about, or at least been reported about, possibly stepping down in the near future. But do you expect the court, from what we've seen so far, to continue down this trend, as you were saying, of kind of siding with religious institutions?
Yes, I want to remind you that last month there was that ruling that expanded non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ workers. And in that ruling, the court said, remember, we really support religious freedom too, and we promise to uphold it in the future. And now we've already seen them make good on that promise, and I think that will be continuing. I think the court wants to find a balance between religious freedom and these other important rights, and they are committed to looking out for faith groups and their ability to operate according to their beliefs.
And Kelsey, I've been continued to be surprised by this court, too, whether it's Neil Gorsuch siding with the liberal justices, whether it's Brett Kavanaugh, whether it's the 7-2 decisions. Of course, Chief Justice John Roberts is a little bit of a wild card. You never know which way he's going to go. And in a way, it is kind of a positive development. You like to think that they're speaking with independence. They're addressing these issues with what they're seeing in front of them. But, of course, when we talk about a political cycle, it becomes a little bit more polarized. You hear people on both sides using this as a campaign issue. We all remember the Kavanaugh confirmation, which of course was very hostile on both sides. But do you think that this speaks to the idea that This is more so in the media, played off in politics. And when you really get to the court justices, they are kind of on the same page for the most part. It's not so big of differences than many people think.
Yes, I think when lay people, as you said earlier, approach these rulings or the issues that the court is considering, we think in very broad strokes. We're saying, okay, abortion rights, that means the conservatives will rule against it. But no, if you're a justice on the Supreme Court, you're looking at these very minuscule details, and it could just be the way a form was filed or the way a new law was made that affects the ruling, not their personal view on whether something should shake out a certain way in the long run.
No, I think you're exactly right. And when we look at a lot of these cases, too, I think sometimes it's worth pointing out that a lot of the decisions fall on the process. Did the White House, for example, have the process to do this? Do these states have the process to do it? It's really looking at the text of the Constitution, the different laws, and trying to make the decision based off that rather than legislating from the bench. That's something that a lot of people will say that liberal justices do. But from what we've seen so far, it looks like they are looking at the law as it's faced and making decisions based on that. And to me, that's a positive development. But Kelsey Dallas, I appreciate you coming on, breaking down this court case for us. Thank you.